How we going, everyone? Just walking down the Cromford Canal. 1794, I want to say this was built. Anyway, there's a couple of news stories that have been kind of floating about, which made me think today and ask myself the question, like, where do we get our perceptions from? Because it's our perceptions of reality, of the people around us, of good and evil, do you know what I mean? Who's the bad guy, who's the good guy, of institutions, of threats, of illnesses, whatever, that controls what we feel and therefore how we react and how we act to them, or as a result of them, whatever. Now, I don't know about you guys, but it feels like the world's in a weird place right now. Like, no one really knows what's going on. Lots of people are starting to wake up to the fact that something's not right, and that's amazing. It's the first step, you know, on the ladder. But at the same time, that's kind of led to a lot of people being very, very confused and wanting answers. And then when you think about it, you're like, well, no wonder, to be honest. Like, as a human species, we're kind of a bit stitched from birth, because our parents lie to us, either by flat out lying or by omission, by not telling us things. And that's not like from a malicious place most of the time. I mean, some probably are, but for most of the time it's not. It's because they believe something to be the truth even though it isn't, and they don't tell you about things that they don't know about. It's going over a railway now. Things they don't know about, because how could they? And the reason that they think things are true and they don't realise things are happening is because they've never been told, or they have been told, a lie, essentially. Then you think, right, so you start off with your parents, and then you go to nursery and school and high school and university or whatever, and all those people are just lying to you, either by flat out lying or not telling you about stuff you need to know. Because actually, in terms of our perceptions, yes, our perceptions, oh, ducks are fighting, our perceptions can be made by what people tell us, but they can also be made by what people don't tell us, of course. So you've got your parents doing it, and then you've got your teachers doing it, again, most of the time, not maliciously, just because they've gone through the same program. And then your TV's constantly doing it, they're lying to you all the time. Your politicians are lying to you all the time. Your doctors are lying to you all the time. Your experts and scientific leaders and whatever, they're all lying to you all the time. Your religious leaders are certainly lying to you all the time. And your peers, the guys you meet in the pub, or the girls you meet in the pub, I don't know why ladies wouldn't be going to the pub, are telling you the same stuff, or not talking to you about the stuff they don't know about. So it goes on until, well, but basically from the day you're born till the day you peg it. So no wonder everyone's so confused, and no wonder people react and act in certain ways, because essentially their perceptions, their basis for reality, now this can be as out there as you want, or it can be in the political sphere, whatever, is stunted, or it's just flat out inaccurate. Now, the reason it's relevant to the stories that I saw today, so there's an article in the Grey Zone, which is a decent publication, where they're talking about the fact that mainstream media outlets in the UK are essentially controlled by British intelligence. Now, this isn't news in the sense that you're probably well aware of something called a D notice, and when the Guardian in particular was platforming Edward Snowden and all that kind of stuff, they were put under a D notice by British intelligence, which basically means, essentially, that the intelligence agencies, the military, they control what goes in the paper and what doesn't, or what goes on the news segment and what doesn't. It has to go through them first. Now, what the Grey Zone have uncovered through freedom of information requests and lots of years of trying to get them, is that it's not just Edward Snowden. They were doing it on the death of a whistleblower in British intelligence. They were doing it on Princess Diana. I mean, I thought that was an accident, folks. And lots of other things as well, where essentially the media was told by British intelligence what they could print and what they couldn't print. And it got me thinking about that paradigm of, that polarity between being told lies and therefore that controlling your perception, and then not being told stuff and that controlling your perception. So now I understand the fact that the British intelligence, and this is all countries in the world, ladies and gentlemen, they don't want certain information getting out there. So you can look at it and go, okay, what information have I not been told? What is it that you know, the intelligence agencies kept out of the paper? That's a very good question. Of course, what is it they kept out of the paper? What is the information that would have changed my perception, my view of the world, my view of self, government, military, whatever? Good question, and one that I'd love to know the answer to. I've got a few theories, of course. But the other one, which I think is another question that perhaps isn't so obvious, is not only, I'm going to come off the canal now just for lols, is not only asking the question, what is it they don't want us to see, but what is it they're happy for us to see? What is it they're more than happy to be in the media and for us to be reading, and therefore building our perceptions of reality, therefore our opinions of the world, therefore what we will accept, what we will put up with, what we will demand as a result? That's a good question, isn't it? So, okay, so what were you not telling me, but also what were you happy for me to know? Now, the other story that plays into that is one that's not in the media at all. And in fact, that grey zone story is not in the mainstream media. They'd have to run it past British intelligence first, wouldn't they? But this other one relates to a guy called Mark Sexton. Now, you've almost certainly heard of him. He's a retired police officer, been speaking out and doing loads of stuff for a long time. Well, it's him and a guy called Ian Clayton. I've interviewed both of them, actually. Certainly spoke to both of them in the past. Right, I'm down by the River Derwent. That river built the Industrial Revolution, by the way, folks. Anyway, I'm going to come down to it because it's cool. They, through another bunch of freedom of information requests, have uncovered that actually the police were instructed, so everyday coppers, decent everyday coppers, were instructed by their higher-ups to not take evidence of vaccine injuries and of any crimes committed throughout the whole COVID tyranny. So that whole thing, you know, where I mean, let's have it right, crimes in terms of deletion of freedoms and coercion and vaccine injuries, vaccine deaths, being fired as a result of refusing to comply, you know, all that kind of stuff. Not having informed consent. There's so many things that were broken by all that. And so the police were actually instructed to not take it, to not accept that evidence, to not have it. So it's kind of like, because if they accept it, then they have to investigate it. And if they investigate it, they will find wrongdoing, obviously, because there was plenty of it. So therefore they just go, nope, not touching it. It's unbelievable. Well, it's not unbelievable. Of course it's not unbelievable. It's how it is, isn't it? And so then I look at it and I'm like, well, I'm always trying to find a positive, folks. I'll find one in the fact that I've come off the canal, I've walked down to the river, and now I've got nowhere to go, basically. And my positive is that this stuff's coming out now. You know, the stuff about the fact that the police are essentially controlled by the state, that they're not looking after, they're not protecting and serving us, the people. Now, we kind of knew that anyway, didn't we? But in terms of providing evidence to, I don't like the term normies, but you know what I mean, providing evidence to those people that perhaps, you know, and understandably don't want to accept that their police forces are doing this. Because I'll be honest with you, like, I'm not an anti-copper, like, I'm not one of those all coppers are bastards, because they're not. And, you know, if I start to get mugged in this wood or whatever, or if I have an intruder in the house and I'm there with my kids, I'm phoning the police, and so are you, ladies and gentlemen. So let's not, do you know what I mean? They're not all bastards. So I'm not coming from that point of view, but in terms of the force in general, not the foot soldiers, I guess, for want of a better term, the everyday Bobby on the beat, although some of them are psychopaths, but that's a whole other conversation. But the people that they're answering to, same with the military, everyday soldiers just want to, do you know what I mean? They're cannon fodder, to be honest, but they just want to get on and they just want to provide, and they believe they're protecting their country and their family and all that kind of stuff. But the people higher up there in the pecking order, they know exactly what that's all about. And so the fact that this is coming out and you can show these freedom of information requests to everyday people and say, look guys, like, I understand you don't want to believe that this is what happens. I understand that you want to believe in your news and the BBC and your newspapers and the mainstream legacy media. Like, I understand that you don't want to have to face that reality, that the fact that you've been lied to your whole life. No one wants to face that. That's pretty shitty. but sozhun, and here's the evidence for it. So the fact that the Grey Zone have got all these pieces of information, the fact that Mark Sexton and Ian Clayton are showing all this information just goes to show, like, there's a change coming, folks. Like, there is. It's in the air, you can feel it. And I know people talk about it in certain ways, like, I'm coming out of it now, like it's a great awakening and all that kind of stuff. I don't know necessarily what that means. The Great Awakening sounds like, it's quite vague, isn't it? And people can perceive it in different ways, in terms of a much more spiritual thing, or just the fact, you know, maybe people are connecting a little bit further, closer to source and all that sort of stuff. Or is it just the fact that these great hidden things are coming out into the open now because you can't hide things forever? And I don't know the answer to that, to be honest. I think the perception of what the awakening is probably different for every single one of us. But I just found that interesting today, and I thought it was worth, you know, having a little comment on the fact that throughout our lives, you know, mainly, not maliciously either, we're fed untruths, or we're denied truths, and, you know, from every aspect of our lives. And so the fact that this stuff is coming out now, and yes, it's just related to the police, and yes, it's just related to the mainstream media and British intelligence in this scenario, but not really. Like, for one, all these things are connected, but also, if it's going on here, it's going on everywhere. And so hopefully what this does, folks, is it kind of gets people's kind of, you know, when people sort of woke up during the COVID stuff, they woke up to it, and you can't, once you're awake, you can't go back to sleep. And so you speak to people, and they are like way down the, I've got to climb up this big hill now. They're like way down the rabbit hole, and you'll say to them, oh, you know, what was your first thing? And they're like, oh, mate, I was just a normie getting on with my life until 9/11, or I was just a normie getting on with my life till COVID, or 7/7, or whatever. You know, there's been multiple things, haven't there, that are like these real triggers to wake people up. But then once they awaken to it, then, you know, they are, do you know what I mean? They've got the bit in their teeth, and they are like, no, I'm going, what else? What else have I been lied to about? I'm going for it now. And so hopefully with these things coming out, you know, I'm out of breath now. With these things coming out about British intelligence essentially controlling what you can and can't see in the media, therefore controlling the perceptions of British people, therefore controlling what you'll support. Will you support war with Russia because they're feeding you this stuff? Will you stay in your house? Will you follow arrows around Tesco's? Will you stick a mask on your face because they're feeding you this stuff whilst simultaneously denying you this stuff, which if you saw that stuff, you'd go, I ain't wearing a fucking mask, this is bullshit. So they're controlling everything through perception, because that's what everything comes down to. What you believe to be true, what you believe to be reality and everything else, controls your behaviour, doesn't it? So the fact this is coming out, more people are seeing this now, I'm hoping that people will look at this and go, okay, that's a pretty big deal. Like, intelligence agencies controlling what I can, right. Well, if they're doing that, what else are they doing? That's a very, very good question.